There was a grandfather who joked around with his friends. He was very happy and living a peaceful life. The grandfather's name was Ivan, and he was a retired Marine who specialized as a sniper. He received many awards, and he was a soldier who took part in the Second World War. Ivan lived happily with his granddaughter named Kathia. Kathia lived with Ivan because her mother were married and lived abroad. Meanwhile, Kathia's father passed away. This made Ivan decide to take care of his beautiful granddaughter. However, Ivan's joy and peace were soon lost because one day his granddaughter got into a mess. One day, Kathia came home from grocery shopping. Kathia then passed by an apartment located near her house. On the way to her house, two young boys greeted Kathia. They lived in the apartment. Hearing them greet her, Kathia chose to stop in front of the apartment. Kathia then greeted the two young boys, who turned out to be her schoolmates. Their names were Vadim and Boris. The two young men approached Kathia. They invited her to stop by their apartment. At first, Kathia refused their invitation, but after Vadim and Boris begged Kathia, Kathia finally felt bad if she refused the invitation from her schoolmates. Later, Vadim and Boris took Kathia inside. It turned out that there was also a young guy in the apartment named Igor. When Kathia arrived, Igor poured alcohol into a unique glass. Then the three young guys invited Kathia to sit down. Kathia felt awkward about the situation in the apartment, but Vadim, Boris, and Igor were able to break the ice. One of them asked Kathia to sing a birthday song because it was Igor's birthday. This made Kathia nervous. At first, Kathia refused, but because they forced her, she finally accepted their request. When Kathia sang, Vadim, Boris, and Igor enjoyed it very much. They also joked around, but one of them secretly poured sleeping pills into Kathia's drink. After Kathia sang, she drank her drink again, which had been given sleeping pills. Soon, Kathia felt dizzy and a little sleepy. She quickly said goodbye to them, but the three young men stopped her. They then took Kathia to the room. It turned out that from the beginning, they planned to rape Kathia. Seeing the three boys behaving strangely, Kathia immediately rebelled and tried to leave. She also shouted that she was still a virgin and didn't want that to happen. Unfortunately, the sleeping pills made Kathia helpless. Feeling Kathia was helpless, Vadim, Boris, and Igor then laid Kathia on the bed. They then took turns enjoying Kathia's body one by one. After they were satisfied, they let Kathia go home. Kathia's look was a mess, and so was her broken heart. The beautiful girl slowly walked to the door of the apartment, but just as she was about to leave, the young men put money in Kathia's bag. Kathia was not willing to accept the money. She felt that her chastity was more expensive than the money they gave her. Outside the apartment, Kathia angrily threw away the money they gave her. Kathia was very sad about what had happened to her. When Kathia arrived home, she couldn't hold back her anger and sadness in front of her grandfather. She cried and fell limp in front of Ivan. Seeing this, Ivan was confused about Kathia. Ivan then tried to ask his granddaughter about what happened. Kathia replied that she had been raped by three young men who lived in the apartment near her house. Hearing that, Ivan was angry. Moreover, Ivan saw blood flowing down Kathia's thigh. He wanted to take revenge on the three young men. He planned to kill all three of them. He went straight to their apartment. However, one of his neighbors named Robbie blocked Ivan. Robbie, who knew Ivan's ferocity in the past, tried to ask Ivan what problems he was facing now. Ivan said that his granddaughter had been raped by three young men, the sons of rich people who lived in the apartment. Robbie, who heard this, immediately calmed Ivan down. He advised Ivan not to make a scene. He also said that he would try to solve this problem by legal means. Then Robbie asked about Kathia's condition. Ivan said that his granddaughter was still locked up and sad in the bathroom. Ivan then suggested that Kathia not erase the wound so that it could become evidence. After seeing that Ivan was calm enough, Robbie promised to help Ivan in handling this case. In the end, Ivan entrusted the sexual crime case against Kathia to Robbie. Robbie immediately reported the case against Ivan's granddaughter to his superiors. As a sincere policeman, Robbie tried his best to help Ivan. Hearing the story of the case made Captain upset. The captain then raided the young men's apartment. He pretended to be drunk so that they would open the door for him. Soon after, Vadim opened the door and let Captain in. He had no idea that the man was a police captain. Immediately, the police officers also entered and arrested the 3 young men. Vadim then scared Captain by saying that he was the general's son. But the captain didn't care. He said that justice must be served. The police also interrogated Boris and Igor. Soon, the police found a cloth with Katya's blood on it. With the discovery of the bloodstains, the 3 young men were not able to evade. The police were then about to take them to the police station. But suddenly Vadim's father, a police general, came to meet them. He intended to take the peaceful route with the police. He gave money to Captain, but Captain didn't want to accept it. Then the man promised to raise Captain's position and give some money as long as the Captain dropped the case. The Captain thought for a moment, but he was unable to hold the trust. He then gladly accepted the general's offer. He then ordered his men to uncuff the 3 young men. Meanwhile, Ivan was still waiting for the progress of his granddaughter's rape case, while Kathia still often stayed in the bathroom and blamed herself. Ivan realized that his granddaughter's behavior could make her commit suicide. Ivan was very afraid that Kathia would make that decision. He then called a psychiatrist to examine Kathia's mental state. After the psychiatrist examined Kathia, she told him that Ivan's granddaughter was doing well. Soon Kathia would be able to forget the incident, added the psychiatrist. A few days later, Ivan got a call from his daughter, who was also Kathia's mother. She said that she would be visiting Ivan's house. Hearing this, Ivan took it as good news for Kathia. Ivan then told Kathia about this news. However, Kathia didn't look happy as she was still in a deep depression. Ivan, who saw that his granddaughter was not eager to continue her life, decided to take her to the police station. Kathia refused her grandfather's invitation. She wanted to forget about the incident. Also, Kathia didn't want everyone to know that she was no longer a virgin, but Ivan still wanted to invite his granddaughter to seek justice. He said that justice must be obtained and the 3 young men must also be punished. Hearing this made Kathia finally want to follow her grandfather's request. Long story short, Kathia and Ivan arrived at the police station. Kathia entered the investigator's room. However, the investigator cornered Kathia. The investigator said that Kathia was the one who seduced the young men to get money from them. It was as if the investigator concluded that Kathia was a prostitute who only wanted money. Hearing the investigator's mockery made Kathia feel sad, angry, and upset. It turned out that the general had previously given money to the investigator. The general did this so that the investigator would reverse the facts about the crime. In addition, the general also wanted Ivan and Kathia to stop looking for the truth. When Ivan and Kathia arrived home, Ivan was very disappointed with the police. Kathia was even more depressed after going to the police station. She still locked herself in the bathroom, and she still couldn't believe that everything had happened to her. Seeing this, Ivan was even more determined to immediately bring the case of sexual harassment against his granddaughter to the court. In the morning, Ivan went to buy breakfast. Then when he was about to go home, he saw Vadim, Boris, and Igor having fun in front of the apartment. This made Ivan even more annoyed with them. Ivan then stared at them. Then the boys asked why Ivan was staring at them. Ivan replied that he saw a demon in human form. After that, Ivan decided to leave. He then rushed to the court. Ivan hoped that the court could handle the case. He was also fully dressed as a Marine and wore various emblems of the awards he had won, so that the prosecutor would still honor him as a national hero. Unfortunately, his hopes were dashed as the reality was not what he wanted. The prosecutor said that he could not proceed with the case. The prosecutor thought that it was Kathia who seduced the young men for money. It turned out that the prosecutor had also received a bribe from Vadim's father, the police general. Hearing the prosecutor's explanation made Ivan want to leave. As he was about to leave, the prosecutor said that Ivan should advise Kathia to stop being a prostitute. This makes Ivan very angry. Then he said that the prosecutor was more dishonored than a prostitute because he had exchanged justice for a small amount of money. Ivan realized that the legal system was unreliable. Ivan decided to get justice in his own way. He planned to take revenge on the 3 young men, but he has no money to buy weapons. he thought of selling his land. He went to a real estate agent. Eventually, Ivan managed to get some money from selling his land. Long story short, Ivan returned home. Kathia was very happy to see her grandfather come because she was worried about her grandfather who did not come. Kathia said that her father Vadim, the general, came to the house. He apologized and gave money to Kathia. Ivan was immediately angry because Kathia's dignity was not worth the money. Then Ivan went straight to the general's house. He threw the money right in front of his face. The next day, Ivan said goodbye to Kathia to go to Moscow. He said that he had some business to handle in Moscow. When he arrived in Moscow, Ivan went to a flea shop. He hoped to get a sniper. Then Ivan met a seller of air guns, but Ivan needs a real weapon. The man helped Ivan meet an illegal arms seller. Then Ivan said that he wanted to buy a sniper, telescope, silencer, and also 10 bullets. Then the seller took Ivan to the place where the weapons were kept. Ivan then honed his shooting skills a little more. The seller was very surprised to see Ivan's ability to shoot. Ivan also admitted that he was still good at shooting. After getting the weapon Ivan wanted, he then hurried home. When he arrived home, Ivan ate together and talked with Kathia, who looked better. Kathia seemed to have forgotten what happened to her, but Ivan still wanted to take revenge on the young boys. In the middle of their conversation, Kathia said that her neighbor left the key of her house to Kathia. Hearing this, Ivan immediately rushed to his neighbor's house. When Ivan arrived, he was pleased to find that the house was directly across from Vadim, Boris, and Igor's apartment. This made Ivan decide to carry out his action in this house. After that, Ivan returned to his house, where Kathia's mother was already there. It was revealed that Kathia's mother arrived to ask Ivan for money. Hearing that, Ivan was angry and told her to leave. The next day, when night came, Ivan secretly took his sniper to his neighbor's house. In the morning, Ivan observed the movements of the young boys. Soon they came to the apartment. Then Ivan immediately headed to his neighbor's house. He prepared to shoot Boris, who was drinking alcohol. Ivan planned to shoot at his vital organs, which was covered by a bottle of beer. Ivan hoped that the incident would be like an accident. After Ivan was ready, Ivan immediately shot Boris. This made the three of them surprised and panicked to see Boris, who was injured. Then they called an ambulance. Meanwhile, Ivan immediately tidied up his neighbor's house so that there was no evidence. After the incident, the general came to the apartment of the three young boys. They said that they didn't know what happened. They didn't even hear any gunshots. They assumed that Boris was holding the wrong bottle. The next day, Robbie approached Ivan. He was assigned to investigate Ivan. Robbie hoped that Ivan had nothing to do with Boris's incident. A few days later, Igor came to the apartment with his new car. Ivan took advantage of this opportunity to carry out his plan of action. Until a moment came when the young man turned on the music. Ivan saw that it was the right opportunity. Then Ivan prepared and shot the gas tank in the car. This was done to make it look as if the explosion was caused by the car itself. Then Ivan immediately went to the crowd near the apartment. When he arrived at the crowd of people, Ivan saw Igor, who was badly injured. Other than that, there was also Robbie, who was staring at Ivan. He suspected Ivan, but he also hadn't found any evidence. Then, at Vadim's house, he looked scared. He didn't want the same fate as his two best friends. His father said that this must all be Ivan's doing. Hearing that, Vadim was even more afraid. He told his father to stop Ivan. Then his father tried to calm Vadim down. He then rushed to the police station and invited the corrupt police to search Ivan's house. At Kathia's house, Robbie came over to her. He said that he wanted to see how Kathia was doing. Kathia happily welcomed Robbie into her house. Kathia then got a drink for Robbie. Meanwhile, Robbie went around Kathia's house to look for Ivan's sniper, but Robbie didn't find the weapon. When Robbie saw a house key, Kathia explained that the key belonged to her neighbor. Hearing that, Robbie assumed that Ivan hid his sniper in the neighbor's house. Moments later, Ivan returned home and the general followed. The general asked about where Ivan kept his weapon, but Ivan pretended not to know what the man meant. Soon Ivan's neighbor arrived. She asked Ivan for her house key. This made the general suspicious that Ivan kept his gun at his neighbor's house. Then they all went to Ivan's neighbor's house. Ivan just sat silent and afraid, because he kept his sniper in his neighbor's closet. The general then opened the cupboard, but it turned out that the sniper was not there. Seeing that, the general forced Ivan to admit his mistake. The general also threatened to kill Ivan if anything happened to Vadim. Ivan then replied that maybe the general was too late to save Vadim. Hearing that, the general immediately rushed home. When he arrived home, the general tried to knock on the door, but Vadim didn't open it, so the general shot at the door. However, Vadim suddenly shot his father to death. Vadim thought that it was Ivan. This happened because Vadim was mentally ill due to his fear. The next day, Robbie invited Ivan to his house. Robbie then took Ivan's sniper. It turned out that Robbie was the one who had moved Ivan's weapon from Ivan's neighbor's house. Yesterday, Ivan took the key to Ivan's neighbor's house and then gave it back when he was at Ivan's house. Robbie initially wanted to arrest Ivan. However, Robbie realized that Ivan just wanted to seek justice for Kathia, his granddaughter, until finally Robbie decided to help Ivan.